Hello, good evening, and welcome to Monkeys with Fire. How is everybody tonight? Hope you're all well. Hope you had a good weekend. So then, tonight we are heading out to the final frontier. We are going to be exploring the Gamma Quadrant thanks to Modiphius Entertainment as we take a look at Star Trek Adventures Gamma Quadrant Sourcebook. Yes, we are going to be heading off to Deep Space Nine, going through the wormhole. This is the start of a week of Star Trek related role-playing game coverage. We're going to be taking a look at the Voyager sourcebook tomorrow, which is the Delta Quadrant, and then on Thursday evening we will be taking a first look at Star Trek Adventures 2nd edition core rulebook. So very much excited about this week's coverage. Good evening, Jason. Thank you for dropping by. You've already got the book, but you wanted to pop on in to say hi and hope we enjoy our read through. Well, thank you so much for that. Yes, very excited. Can't wait. I'm a bit of a Star Trek fan. I've watched a few films and a few TV shows. Okay, maybe it's a bit more than a few. Right. Now, of course, we always, when we're doing one of these deep dives, I do say that my role-playing game experience goes back to the days of college when I was playing Dungeons and Dragons. I have taken a long break since that time, and so now I have been getting back into it, exploring all the different games that are available out on the market. If you have any questions, please do jot them into the chat or leave a comment, and I will do my best to answer them for you. And of course, my thanks to Modiphius Entertainment for providing a copy of the Star Trek Adventures Gamma Quadrant. We're going to be taking a look at the PDF this evening. So, we can't jump to the table. We have to jump to the digital table, I guess. So, let me press that one just there. Okay. Here we go. The great thing about sourcebooks are all about theming, aren't they? These are the books that I love to read because, yes, your core rule book, it does have some of the background about the setting in there, but it's the source books that give you all the meat, isn't it? And this is the great thing about the source books for Star Trek Adventures, is that if you are a Star Trek fan, and these are a real joy to read. Now, theme. Yes, theme is important, and I don't feel like this screen is giving me the Star Trek theme. Let me see what I can do. Now, this feels a lot more like Star Trek to me. Okay, I think we're all set and ready, so let's jump on in. So, straight away on the inlay of the book, we have a wonderful 2-page map of the region, which is covering the time of the Dominion War. This is kind of a zoomed-in version, so of course it's taking a look at the major locales. Of course, we have Deep Space Nine, we have Cardassia, we have Bajor. But of course, the Dominion War did actually spread out across the Alpha and Beta quadrants. So on the other page, we do have Sol up in the top, obviously the heart of the Federation. And I like how the map just points out where starships were lost and what date these occurrences were, and it also, the key gives you an idea as far as which planets were contested. We also have the Briar Patch, because this book does cover the events of, I think, Star Trek Insurrection, which is the second, or the third, I guess, of the next generation cruise outing into the movies. And of course, we had the sonar being introduced in that movie, and they do feature within the book. So I like these maps. These are very handy. Gives you a little bit of a visual representation of where everybody is and what they're doing. We jump on in, and basically it's split out into 5 chapters. We got an introduction, we have details then on the Gamma Quadrant, the species of the Gamma Quadrant, starships of the Gamma Quadrant, and then encounters and adversaries. And as I say, this is really a deep dive into the Star Trek Deep Space Nine TV series. And if you're a fan of the show, then of course this book would be essential reading for you. And of course incredibly enjoyable as well. So, jumping on in. Obviously throughout the book we've got this great technical art. These books, at the time when Modiphius was doing this, because of course this is a couple of years old now, they all incorporate the Lacar's graphic design. So it's a joy to sort of see. It makes you feel as if you're looking at one of the displays on a Federation starship. And of course I've had a lot of fun making my overlay for tonight's show. Okay, so we jump on in, and basically it just starts to give us a little bit of a background to the Gamma Quadrant. For those of you who haven't seen Deep Space Nine, and I don't think I need to put the spoilers alert on this because you've had plenty of time to watch the show, but in essence, Deep Space Nine is a space station, kind of on the fringes of Federation space. And it was a Cardassian space station. Cardassians are kind of a relatively new-ish adversary in the Star Trek world. They came about in the middle to latter part of the Next Generation series. They are the primary adversary initially in the Deep Space Nine TV show, and this is one of their old space stations to which the Federation have taken it over, and they are trying to sort of hold the line a little bit against the Cardassians, but they discover a wormhole, and this wormhole takes travel all the way to the Gamma Quadrant, which of course is hundreds and hundreds of light years, thousands probably, away from the opening sort of location. And that being the case, it allows the crew of this station to basically go and visit unexplored worlds. But of course, it goes 2 ways, this wormhole, and basically they find that there is an enemy, an unmatched enemy of immense power on the other side of the wormhole, and so begins the Dominion War. Deep Space Nine is a fantastic television series. It's really, really good. It's definitely worth watching if you haven't seen it. It's very different from your typical Star Trek shows because of it being set on a space station as opposed to a travelling starship. Everything comes to the station, not the ship obviously venturing out. And you have a very, well, there's some quirky cast members, characters that the show introduces you to, that you grow very fond of across, I think it's the 7 seasons worth of the show. So it's a reasonably long show, but definitely well worth it. The first couple of seasons start to sort of do the table setting, introduce you to the characters, start to build things up, and then if we have the introduction of the Dominion, and once that occurs, things very quickly spiral into conflict. And whereas the Federation have always been about going out and discovering and trying to peaceful exploration, they are now up against a group, a force that basically is all about war. And how does this utopian civilization, this grouping of planets, how do they deal with an adversary that just wants to fight? So it's an interesting story. To make matters worse, the main antagonists within the Dominion are changelings. These are creatures that are able to change their shape. So it means there's an essence of this hidden enemy that you never quite know whether the person next to you is actually human or is one of these changelings. And of course that means there's lots of sabotage occurs. But the changelings also have the Jem'Hadar, who are the muscle of the Dominion. Good evening, Roger. Thank you for joining us. We're just getting started looking through Star Trek Adventures Gamma Quadrant Sourcebook. Were you a fan of Deep Space Nine? So we're going into a little bit of the political structure here of the Dominion. We have the Founders, who are the changelings at the top. The Vorta, who are, I think they're genetically engineered to be the spokespeople of the Founders. And then the Jem'Hadar, who are the, as I say, the muscle. And the Jem'Hadar basically it's quite dark, some of the aspects in DS9, because the Jem'Hadar effectively are addicted to a substance called Ketracel White, and this is what keeps the Jem'Hadar obedient to the Vorta and to the Founders. And essentially they've kind of set up a sort of religious aspect to it, that they worship near enough the Founders, and as a reward to being loyal soldiers, they are given out their Ketracel White. It's quite disturbing, I suppose. So it's going through telling us a little bit about some of the different species that DS9 introduced to the Star Trek world. And in fact, this source book does then give all of those details, so you can potentially play them as characters or have them in your games. Of course, throughout the book, you can see just the amazing artwork. I really do enjoy the illustrations that they've included here. Both the starship and the character illustrations are all of incredibly high quality. And I do like how the book is laid out, as I say, using the sort of Lacar's system, having the darkened pages. Obviously, being able to show you guys the PDF, it really works within this setting. However, the actual books, they do have a little bit of a shine on them, and I believe Modiphius is very aware of the feedback that they've had over the years, in that having white print on a dark page is not the best as far as being able to read, certainly while you're around a gaming table. With that in mind, the later books, they went back to a white page, dark print of text. And indeed, when we take a look at the second edition core rules, you'll see that they've done away with the dark page in the Lacar's graphic design completely. But if they've introduced a new graphic style, which is very pleasing as well. So we got a little bit about culture here of the Dominion. culture being, of course, the Great Link. This is where all of the founders basically link together. They share their minds, their thoughts, their beings all together. It's quite an interesting scene. We got again, I don't know how much of this book has been created by the actual writers or whether they pull information from other sources of Star Trek lore. I do recall back in the day the Star Wars RPG from West End Games. In fact, there was no lore for the designers to pull from, so they actually created and invented everything, to which it all got signed off by Lucasfilm, and of course that then became the essentially the lore for the elements of the movie that was never explained. But Star Trek's always been a case of having lots of information surrounding it. So I wonder how much of it they actually create for the game, how much of it actually comes from what exists. So a little bit about science and technology, looking at the Dominion starships. Of course, when the Federation first encounter the Dominion, their starships are far superior. And yes, the Federation definitely has a hard time initially. That is until they start doing a little bit of research and development. Good evening, Woodkin. Thank you for joining us. We are taking a look at Star Trek Adventures Gamma Quadrant Sourcebook. This is the sourcebook that details everything about Deep Space Nine, if you are familiar with that particular Star Trek series. So of course we are looking at the Cardassians and the Dominion and the Changelings and the Bajorans. So here we go, it's actually talking manipulation here. The Vorta, incredibly advanced. Yes, the Vorta are very much into manipulation. We then go and take a look at some of the Dominion worlds. These are all the worlds that are on the other side of the wormhole. And I'm going to assume that these are worlds that are featured in the early seasons of DS9. The one sort of, I suppose, slight disappointment, if I'm going to say that, is that there's no map of the Gamma Quadrant. As you saw right at the start, there is a map of how the Dominion War affected the Alpha Quadrant, but nothing to see what actually the Gamma Quadrant's like. I guess that ultimately, once the war starts, all of the action is happening over in the Alpha Quadrant, isn't it, really? But we might want to have some adventures over on the other side of the wormhole. And so this features some of the planets that we might want to visit. Now this is interesting. The world of Meridan spends the majority of its time trapped in a quantum-shifted state between dimensions. Its sun emits special particles which cause the molecules that make up the planet to periodically vibrate between dimensions. So you do not want to get trapped on that planet. The planet only exists in our reality for a few weeks before disappearing again. Wow. Now, again, I think I remember that episode. Unfortunately, I'm not blessed with a photographic memory of all the episodes. I've watched them all. I can't remember all of them. Like I say, there's some 7 seasons worth, isn't there? But this is giving GMs, and I guess ultimately players, just so much fantastic information to immerse themselves within. And I like the little call-outs that are written in the style of either characters or that we know, of course, from the series, or other members of Starfleet, or in this case, a founder, just to sort of help you sort of get an idea, set the scene a little bit. So there's quite a few planets that they do feature in here, which is good. Yeah, wow, there's actually quite a few. Okay. Disobedience will not be tolerated. So, the Gamma Quadrant Sourcebook detailing the Gamma Quadrant. So it's now talking about Dominion allies. The Cardassians, of course, are the primary ones. I guess the Cardassians just like the idea of being able to subjugate the Bajorans again, and possibly try and get a deeper foothold in the Alpha Quadrant. Prior to this, obviously we had encounters in the Next Generation series, but this was their opportunity, this was their moment to shine, being allied with the Dominion. The Breen. Now the thing is, the Breen as a race were never massively covered, I think, in the original series, or even in the Next Generation era, but they have been covered in in Discovery. It was the first time I'd actually seen the Breen. And then, of course, we got the sonar. As I say, these were introduced in the Next Generation movie Insurrection. These were an offshoot of a civilization of the Baku. So again, it details a little bit of the events in the movie. And again, detailing relationships, technology. Just giving lots and lots of great depth. Orions. These are the crime syndicates, aren't they? Which of course makes sense. The Dominion might lean towards them. The Packleds. Again, Packleds, they appear in the Next Generation. They're not the sharpest of races. For any Packled fans out there, I do apologise, but you've got to agree. They're not the best. But there are a lot of fun in the Lower Decks TV show. Certainly for the first couple of seasons. So again, talking about technology, Packleds very much sort of salvage. It's quite surprising how they've managed to get into space, given their limited intelligence. And then detailing potential allies. The Folian Assembly. I remember the Folian Web from the original series. The Folians are very mysterious. The Gorn. The Gorn have been featured in Strange New Worlds more prominently, I guess. We did see them in the original series. Captain Kirk had to face off against the Gorn captain. Nausicans. Ooh. I'm trying to... Oh, that's it. Nausicans, they are the ones that stabbed Picard. Stabbed him in the heart. See, this is what I like about source books. They really test your knowledge. So, Roger, did you get to watch Deep Space Nine? Were you a fan? How about you, Woodkin? Were you a fan of the show? So that's listed all of the Dominion allies. And then we do have some enemies. But these are not necessarily allies of the Federation. They just don't like the Dominion. So these actually could be on the side of the... on actually the Gamma Quadrant side, couldn't they? Because I don't recognise Talarians, a near Klingon species. And then, of course, the Ferengi. They're definitely on our side, on the Alpha Quadrant, aren't they? But they'd be more interested in trying to sell the Dominion something as opposed to fight against them necessarily. The First Federation, I've not heard of that. First Federation made contact with Starfleet in the mid-23rd century. So that's going to be Captain Kirk era. Their ships and infrastructure are more powerful than those of most of the rest of the Alpha Quadrant. Wow. The First Federation considers every single one of the Alpha and Beta Quadrant civilizations as less advanced, as well as the Dominion. Thus far, they have no cause to get involved. The Dominion continues to harass the First Federation. I feel like I need to go and find out more about this one because I've not heard of them. And then we have a little section here, other realms and species. I mean, again, just because the show didn't feature a particular species doesn't mean that you can't include them. So as it says here, we got the Borg. So having intercepted transmission and data from Starfleet during the Battle of Sector 001, the Borg are certainly aware of the Dominion and undoubtedly interested in Dominion technology and founder biology. Wow, that would be quite an amazing campaign. The Federation being caught in between the Borg trying to assimilate Dominion technology. That would be quite something. That would be like two giants fighting and we're just caught in the middle of it. So we get a little bit of call out here. First contact with the Dominion and the loss of the USS Odyssey. I think that, of course, will have been one of the episodes in the show. It's talking about Commander Sisko. So we've got to obviously talk about, well, Captain Sisko. It's the age-old discussion in fandom. Who was the best captain? Put it into the chat or into the comments. Who you believe is the best Star Trek captain? I will put my vote on Captain Sisko. Tell me a reason why he isn't the best of the captains. Okay, so it then goes into details on the actual Dominion War itself. And I like this. It feels a little bit like one of those shows on the History Channel where they look back at a major confrontation or a war and break it all down and talk to experts as to what actually happened and what that side did and what these sides did, and just goes through effectively the entire show from the point where the war actually started. It gives you all the major elements. And of course this is all just great information, so you can slot on in your adventure, your little scenario into elements of what the war is going on around you. And then of course we've got the first battle of Deep Space Nine. Ultimately they get driven from the station and then have to regroup before they're able to reclaim the station. And there we go, second battle of DS9. And we've got a little bit of info here, role-playing in the Cold War. I mean, there is a lot. It's a good read. As I say, if you are a Star Trek fan, you're going to thoroughly enjoy this. And that's the thing, it is essentially, it's written for obviously players, but players are fans. The Star Trek Adventures role-playing game allows you to take part in your favourite TV show. That's the great thing about it. So, again, just going through lots of details until we get to the end of the actual war. That's it. Explaining what the different factions, where they are at the end of the war. Before we then jump into Chapter 3. Looking at the species of the Gamma Quadrant. And of course, because Star Trek Adventures allows players and GMs to set their games at any time period within the Star Trek lore, these particular species can only happen during the Next Generation era. Primarily because they hadn't been discovered prior to this point. I'm just going to quickly have a look through, but we've got some nice artwork here. So we can remember them from the show. Some examples of names. Talents, attributes. Some of these I don't remember. Good thing, again, with these there is plenty of resources available online, so if it doesn't include artwork, you can just take the name, type it on in, and you'll probably get some kind of screenshot from the show. These are the sonar, again introduced in Star Trek Insurrection, who have very, very dodgy health and beauty tips and accessories. I'm not sure if I'd want to play as one of their characters. We've got the Tosk. And the Waddy. And then, this is the bit that I guess everybody loves. It's the starships. Of course it is. So, we've got details now on the Jem'Hadar battleship, which is featured on the front cover of the book. We have cruisers. Have I gone past this one? No, battleship. Karima cruiser. Vorta explorer. And then we have the sonar flagship. Again, wonderful artwork there from Star Trek Insurrection. Dominion dispatch vessel. Isolytic weapons. So these, if I remember rightly, are banned in the Federation. So in any scene where a ship-mounted isolytic weapon is used, no vessel may enter warp speed as space-time is rippling like a boulder thrown in a small pond. Additionally, no subspace communications function. Yeah, the isolytic weapons cause a tear in space-time. Not good. And then it details Federation starships that were featured during the Dominion War. Again, some of these were, well, I guess the vast majority of these were included in the DS9 show. Surprisingly, they don't have a massive call out for the Defiant, which the Defiant is featured in the Utopia Planitia sourcebook, but I don't think it's here. But there is a Defiant class vessel here. So we've got the USS Galaxy, which is a Galaxy class starship. USS Prometheus. So this was featured in Voyager, I think. This is a vessel that can split up into 3 independent parts. It's quite unique and very much combat orientated. The Sutherland, which is a Nebula class. Oh, too fast. Lakota, which is Excelsior class. So in fact, they're pretty much covering most of the major space frames here. So we go USS Valiant, which is a Defiant class. USS Majestic, Miranda. And then on to the Klingons, which my Klingon is not very good. Oh gosh. Katinga refit. Oh my goodness, I'm ruining the name. And then we got a Romulan vessel. Is that the Derricks? These are both refits. Because of course, during the Dominion War, the Federation did actually align with the Klingon Empire and the Romulan Star Empire. So we can actually have a multitude of different Alpha Quadrant races working together. And then the final chapter, Encounters and Adversaries. So exploring the actual Gamma Quadrant through the Bajoran wormhole. The various orbs from the Prophets. Again, that would make for an interesting story element. And I suppose there's nothing stopping you from doing missions more sort of peaceful, non-war related down on the planet of Bajor. We got your runabouts. And, well, indeed, this is now giving you some suggestions for types of missions or adventures that your players could go on. We'll skip past these, we don't want to go into too much detail. And then it starts looking at various NPCs. Now some of these do come up in the actual show. I think we've got a few generic ones to start off with here. We've got a water scientist, a diplomat, and then I think we move on. Oh gosh, a Dominion assassin. So, giving us some suggestions while playing during the Dominion War. This is a little bit more for the Games Master. Stories of intrigue and espionage. Talking about the Cardassians and about Ketracel White. I mean, as you can see, there's just so much information. And then we do get to major NPCs. General Martog, the Klingons. Kai Wynn is the spiritual leader of the Bajorans. Gul Dukat, the Cardassians. Wayun, the Vorta, for the Dominion. Too fast. And then we got one of the founder leaders. And I think that pretty much wraps it up. So right at the back, again, we have the 2-page map. This time it gives dates to major engagements across the sector. So you can kind of semi-awkwardly trace how things are happening. And how far they manage to get. So there we go. That's it. As I say, if you are interested in Deep Space Nine as a show, then this is an amazing companion guide that goes into so much detail. Introduces new starships for you to be able to check out, introduces new alien species, and of course a variety of different planets for you to explore. But essentially brings the Federation into that war setting that it hasn't previously encountered, and so it very much changes the style of the games that you might enjoy within the Star Trek universe. So there we go. Now then, just a few notes. If you guys haven't already seen, on the video description there is a link to a giveaway. I will be giving away a copy of Star Trek Adventures 2nd Edition Core Rules as a PDF. The winner will be drawn next Monday. so you still have a few days to enter. Just click on the link and you'll be able to put your name in the hat to be drawn. That'll be next Monday. On tomorrow night's show, we're going to do something similar, but this time we're going to be taking a look at Star Trek Voyager. We will be exploring the Delta Quadrant Sourcebook. So something similar, but all about Voyager, all about the Borg. And, well, the Borg are just awesome, aren't they, hey? So that should be a lot of fun. Thank you, those of you who were in the chat. If you've got any questions, please do leave them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer. And of course, please like and subscribe. But until tomorrow evening, thank you very much, and bye for now.